Hello everybody and welcome to Getting APIs to Work. Today we are here at Salesforce in Zurich and we talk about the risks of RPA-driven automation. With me is Amir Khan, who works for MuleSoft. Hey Amir, thanks for joining.
Hi Eric, thanks for the invitation and happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and why you think about automation and APIs, of course.
So I work for Salesforce in a division called MuleSoft, and I'm a solution engineer taking care about MuleSoft solutions we are offering. And recently we have launched an automation solution. So I had the chance to learn more about automation and really understand how APIs can feed and fuel automation towards successful implementation. And that's why we are here to talk about it.
Yeah. And when you talk about automation, of course, RPA, I think, is a topic that is kind of hard to avoid nowadays. So when we talk about RPA, how would you define RPA? What are the characterizing features of RPA when we look at it at a very high level?
So basically, when we talk about RPA, which stands for Robotic Process Automation, and it helps organizations to really increase their productivity. Using graphical user interface technology and automate repetitive work of users, business users, which are helping them to free up resources.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't know whether you see it the same way. For me, RPA always has like two, I would say, fundamental layers. So one would be kind of the real extraction components, right, that allow you to extract information from a certain UI. And then more of an orchestration layer that allows you to build new workflows around this and kind of build up automation capabilities around that. Do you have a similar view of what RPA, how it works, so to speak?
Yes, so if you would generally speak about RPA, that would be also the understanding I have. On a very high level, you have these roboters who are doing the work, unlocking the data from various systems, and then you have the orchestration layer, which is really bringing in the logic of the execution of the bots.
Mm-hmm. And that, of course, allows you to build really interesting capabilities with RPA tooling, and that's all good and fine. But so today we want to talk a little bit about the risks. So like any tool, I would say, there are good ways to use tools and not so good ways to use tools, or like ways when you should say, okay, this tool is not for this task. Mm-hmm. And for RPA, I think we talked a little bit about two areas where it may be interesting to think about risks that you may be running into. So let's look at those two areas briefly. So the first one, what do you see where you have to be a little bit careful when you use RPA?
So first of all, RPA is super easy to use. Yeah? That's one good point, but it's also which actually results in a risk, because if something is easy to implement, easy to use, there's always a risk that's overused. Yeah? So, and this is what we see currently very often in the market, that the RPA technology is being used for majorly everything which you want to do, because you have a very successful implementation on a dedicated use case where you are able to unlock the system and data which are not providing any interfaces. Mm-hmm. So now what's happening, because of this success on a specific system, you are overusing RPA basically also for the modern application where you could most of the time use different interfaces to unlock those.
Mm-hmm. And when we discussed this beforehand, you were specifically mentioning somebody using RPA tooling to use or to extract information from a Salesforce UI, right? Where to me it was
that's like really weird, right?
Where you think like there's an API for it, so why would you even think about using RPA on top of Salesforce?
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. Why would you? Because it's so simple. Yeah. It's so easy to use. And the risk lies really within the implementation on a modern application. So such as Salesforce or any kind of modern UI, which is changing frequently. So we are living in a DevOps world, in an agile world, where these implementation and changes are on a daily menu. And this causes the robot execution to fail very often. Mm-hmm. So if something is easy to implement and easy to use, it doesn't mean that you can use it for everything.
Yeah, I think that's a very good general statement. Yeah. Only because it's easy to do, it may not be a good idea. Okay, so the first risk then is to use it for everything instead of just thinking about, do I have to use it because I don't have any other possibility, or I can easily use it or safely use it because the interface is stable.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now let's move on to the second risk that we also discussed briefly. So what would you characterize as the second risk that you see that happens when people are using RPA?
I think it's mainly on the second component we have described in the beginning. It's the orchestration layer. So because when you look currently in the market, every RPA company is offering, or every RPA tool is coming with the orchestration layer, which from the point of view of the usage is good, because you are able to implement a logic behind the bot executions. But on the other hand, because the bots are so simple to use, you can apply logic, and then it's even fueling the overusage of RPA in mostly every workflow you try to implement RPA and so on. So this is the second risk which exists currently, and I think it can be solved differently.
Yeah, for me, that was always my view of RPA a little bit like this, where I said, I understand that these bots are very useful, and they can expose APIs, right? Which then would be consumable to everybody and anybody. And to me, that always seemed like this is maybe what you should be doing. And then, of course, if the RPA comes with an orchestration layer, that's fine. But to me, it was always like, I should also be able to use other tools and orchestration layers, right? That's, I think, where then you get into this space where you are more flexible in terms of how people are using the capabilities that you expose.
Yes, and I think this is even necessary in when you look who needs automation in an organization. Most of the times these are users who are not technically enough to build automation. So you have a RPA team which is implementing the RPA automation for you, and you just feedback and request additional changes. If there are errors, they come back to you. So there's this communication overhead which is being created because of the technology, because of the overuse of RPA. And I think here a no-code, low-code solution can really help to improve the usage of automation, and also allow people who are not so technically to use automation without the technical barrier.
When you were saying this, so looking at low code, no code, I think is a very good, you could almost call it, I would say, like botless RPA or something like this, right? Where it's just the orchestration in a hopefully easy to use way, but it doesn't have that bot aspect to it.
Yes, so you can call it like botless automation or headless automation, which I think is super beneficial. You are not just using bot for everything, because whenever you use a bot, let's say for SAP, for Salesforce, you also have to consider that there are additional costs attached to it. Like for all these systems, you need to have a bot license. This is one thing, but also the SAP license you need to have for the bot, the Salesforce license for the bot, because the bot is then using the graphical user interface to log into these systems. So you need to treat the bot as an employee and reserve the licenses for this.
And then there's an indirect cost, right, where you say, and now that I have done this, because the bot is stupid, I cannot change my SAP interface anymore, right? So that, I think, is also a cost where you take away options that you otherwise would have and say, oh, I'd rather not make any changes because we have all these brittle bots around who are not good at it.
And you know, we are living in 2023. So today, when you look, when you look in the market, you have so many no-code solutions which provide these headless connectivity to various systems like Salesforce, like SAP, and so on. So, and if you would use these headless options to implement automation and only use RPA for dedicated scenario where it's really needed, I think that would be a good approach to a successful automation journey.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I think that's kind of a good way to summarize it, right? It's like use RPA as, I tend to look at it as something more as a tactical tool, not so much as like a long-term strategy, right? We use it as long as we have to and not when we can.
Yes.
And then it's fine. But be aware of those risks, I think. So do you have any closing words around, RPA usage that you see, that you would like to see?
So I think RPA is a good thing to use. It's a technology which is empowering the organization to unlock systems which are super difficult to unlock. So I believe that there are defined use cases where RPA makes sense, and these are really for systems which are not providing any kind of interfaces, or where interface exists but it's super heavy to use and they are not stable. So those are those use cases where you would be implementing RPA. And also like unstructured data. This is also one thing where RPA can really provide value by using OCR technology to read the data from a scanned PDF file and further process it via APIs into your architecture. So this is my view on where RPA definitely makes sense. And then you have these modern application no-code solutions which are providing connectivity to various systems. Use those in combination with RPA and build an automation strategy which is based on your capabilities, your organization capabilities. Introduce AI, ML, chatbots, APIs, and RPA together towards automation.
I like that a lot. Like, if you are able to use things in combination, I think that's always a good sign. Right?
Yes.
If you can mix and match tools as they work best for the problem you have to solve right now, that's good. If you're maneuvering into a place where you have only one tool and that's the only one you can use, that you're probably in a risky place. Okay, great. Thanks so much, Amir, for joining. That was really fun. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope you like it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And with that, until next time, and keep getting APIs to work. Bye.
Thank you.